This is the classic Konro. This is the one that's the ideal situation. You see them in the yakitori restaurants in Japan. Now we've also got this one here. We like these ones too. There's a lot of portability to them. They're lighter, they're easier to pick up and take to a park for a picnic. They never really get hot at all on the outside. You can't burn yourself. The charcoal sits inside this thing that then goes inside of this protecting layer on the outside. You can raise and lower the grill. You can put skewers in on the sides and angle stuff in. So there's some features to it that are nice, but we want to see what it does when it's cooking. So we're gonna do a side-by-side comparison with steak.
Oh, and potatoes. What we want to see is this traditional classic Konro made out of diatomaceous earth will create better heat radiation. They claim that they will cook from inside faster. So what we're going to do today is to have the same brick of charcoal. We're going to use the shirozumi. It's heating up right now. Cook exactly the same thing on two different barbecues and see if there's any difference.
Yeah, we're going to use the feature here where we lift the grates up. We measure the distance from the bottom to the grill surface, and it will be the same if we have it lifted up. And this way, doing this, we can raise the steaks. I'm really interested to see how the potato goes and if it's gonna cook faster from the inside through the heat retained in the brick. And I'm also interested to see with this if there's any difference on how the meat sears. That's what I'm looking for, is the color on the surface of the meat.
Right.
And because we are officially scientists, we're gonna use a thermometer.
Let's get started.
Let's get started.
Let's get started.
So shirozumi is this charcoal we've got here. It's made out of a wood, it's actually made out of eucalyptus. It's a pretty fast growing tree, so it grows fairly sustainably in a way. It's nice and dense. It's not as dense as the binchotan, which is using a white oak, which is a very slow growing tree. In Japan, they're very responsible, so they do harvest it in a way that's quite sustainable. But binchotan produces such a superior product. However, it is very expensive. So we've sourced out this shirozumi, and we found that it's gonna give us a good bang for our buck. Now, ultimately, if you want to go the whole way, get that binchotan. It is incredible. It burns for hours upon hours, and it's very clean. You can use it a couple of times, but if you really just want to get after it and fill your big barbecue with a bunch of solid wood charcoal, the shirozumi is a better price for that. The nice thing about it is how they make it. It is considered white charcoal, which means that they've brought it up, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, to about 1,000 degrees, which really purifies the wood. There's not a lot of the, soot kind of flavor that's going to come out. I mean, it's really just turned the wood into as much carbon as possible. I don't know what percentage. I know binchotan is often in the 97% carbon.
Yeah.
So it's really quite pure and gives us a really fantastic heat.
Yeah.
And that's the important part. Yeah, let's let them sit for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So that they kind of heat up evenly before we start doing any cooking. Should we put the grill on this one too?
Sure.
Now, we can adjust a few things. Both of them have a little air vent on the front, and we've got our fan.
Oh, yeah.
The fan's nice to just get some air moving through them so they get nice and red. Sometimes you want to add a bit of heat. Something that's nice about these that you don't experience like you do with a gas grill is when you put steak on your gas grill, when you turn it over, you need to turn it over to another spot because the temperature of the meat has cooled the grills down. And that doesn't really happen this way, so we don't need to worry about that. Okay, we've got the same charcoal. We started the charcoal at the same time, and we've let it kind of hang out inside of the Green Life and this Konro for about 5 minutes. We did that to let the heat kind of travel through, get everything warmed up, and we're gonna pop a couple steaks on each one.
We're gonna cook the same time and see how it sears and how it cooks, I guess, like from the inside as well.
From my life as a chef, you know how many people have asked me right around Thanksgiving or Christmas, like, I've got a this many pound turkey, how long will it take to cook?
Yeah.
I usually say, I don't know, look at the internet. Because I think the best way to do it is using your senses and a tool for measuring. You look at things, you feel things, and you use your thermometers.
Yeah.
So you start to see over here, there's a bit of color coming up the sides. Yeah, it's about the same over here. Not so much on this guy.
Not so much, don't I? But this one,
Don't, not yet.
hi.
Let's give them 2 minutes,
Okay.
and then we'll turn them, and then we'll do 2 minutes,
Okay.
and then we'll check them.
Okay.
And if they're over 135,
Yeah.
we'll take them off. Oh yeah, we got
Yeah.
little bubbles coming up there. Okay, so it's just coming up 2 minutes, so why don't we flip them?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Oh, look, that's the spot is like that did really good, eh?
Yeah, that's a nice hot spot
Yeah,
there.
the spot there.
That's got a nice here. You see, it's also closer to the fat.
Yeah.
And that's something about this cut of meat is it doesn't have a lot of fat in it. You can always oil them to get a little bit more color on it, but I don't think we needed to introduce another variable to our experiment here. 4 minutes.
Okay. I can switch the spot though, can I?
Yeah.
Okay.
Move it over to a hotter spot. I mean, we got to cook on them like we're cooking on them, for real. Oh yeah, wow. Those are cooking way faster.
Time, right?
Stick a thermometer in one of those.
Yeah.
So we're at 120, that's pretty close to being able to take it out. Here, let me try this one now. Whoa! Whoa, that's hot on the knuckles. Flip it.
Flip it. I'm gonna flip
Oh.
the.
All right, look at that. It's only at 100.
Oh,
That's crazy.
that's crazy.
So in the same amount of time, the ones on the Konro are 20 degrees hotter on the inside.
And yeah.
What?
And it's like
What the science?
and it's like got a really nice crust on the outside like this.
Yeah, and I don't know if that's from just sort of the exposure to the charcoal below, or if it's the fat that was coming out of that side. So take those off. Those would be done.
These would be good, eh? 100, 130.
Yeah, that's done.
Yeah, it's done.
I think 135 is pretty good for a steak like this, especially if it's nice and thin.
Yeah, it's got a little over 140.
So 7
But
and a
yeah,
half.
oh yeah, these are done.
So let's take these off at the same time.
Yeah, sure.
And then when we slice them, we'll actually be able to see the difference. Okay, we've taken our steaks off. These are from the Konro. These are from the Green Life, divided by our skewer. Now, we spend almost 8 minutes cooking them. We're gonna let them rest for 4 minutes. I always find the rule of letting your steaks rest for 50% of the time that you cook them generally gives you a decent rest, such that when you carve it, it's not gonna lose all of the juice. And we decided to take them off at the same time, not the same internal temperature,
right.
because we feel like that'll show us, just from the colors inside, the difference that it had in cooking. And it's really interesting how the Konro with the diatomaceous earth bricks cooked faster.
I guess one of the things to improve the quality of steak, I guess, for the Konro is probably add a little bit more charcoal so that has a little bit more direct heat, maybe. Maybe. So that gives sear as well as the internal kind of.
Yeah, and I think it's about learning as you go how you're placing your charcoal.
Yeah, exactly. Too.
When we heat it up in those chimneys, the bottom's hotter and the top's colder. So it's never really quite that even. So when you dump it out, there's little ends that are cooler. Really letting it sit. And from my experience of using charcoal in these types of barbecues, I often try to aim for an hour of prep on the charcoal, and then I cook, spend an hour cooking, and then I come back after I've eaten to put the charcoal out. And at that point, like almost 3 hours later, is when it's at its peak evenness, and I'm like, oh man, now I want to cook on it. So it is quite cool, and I think that the time you spend getting to know how they work and using them and varying what you're doing is gonna just get you more skill at doing this. And this is something I like to do when I'm using charcoal, is I'll cook stuff and I'll head inside and we'll eat, but before I take something and I'll put it on top of the charcoal and roast it. So I'll take whole peppers or whole eggplants and I'll just put them there. I've even at times taken the grill off and put whole eggplants right on top of the charcoal. But you know, a charcoal roasted sweet potato is absolutely magic. They're so delicious. So let's put them on and see how they go.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so we're just coming up on a 50% rest time. So this is the piece off the Konro.
That's Konro. Slightly thicker, but very similar. Did it look this is cooked a little bit more?
Yeah, cut that one. Konro left, Green Life right. Konro. I think probably the fact that there was more heat from the brick, just more radiant heat surrounding it. Like I think if we had that infrared camera, the heat would be concentrated and then the gradient would come out wider, be more consistent from edge to edge, where I suspect that's more focused kind of heat. I think this year, because it was only on one piece, and that piece you could see the fat coming down and hitting, I bet the fat just kind of trickled along the other side of the meat, and it was the fat that helped create that sear.
Okay.
Konro, Green Life.
For 25 minutes?
Mm-hmm.
We have to, I guess, flip it periodically.
This is the first time I've tried cooking a whole potato on charcoal. So I think in the future, I would try to move the charcoal off to one side and then not have it over the direct heat.
Yeah.
I think you could also wrap them in foil.
And just dump in.
But I'm sure if we had done it in the video and wrapped them in foil, we would have had tons of comments telling us we'd put the wrong side of the foil up. Okay, let's taste test.
Okay.
Look at this, steaming hot. This looks beautiful. Well, it smells nice. It's got a bit of that burnt flavor.
Charred, you mean?
Charred. That's so good.
Good.
So we did the Konro now, before,
So
and now this is the one from Green Life.
Yeah, Green Life.
It's gonna taste the same. A little crunchier in the middle.
Yes, you can see them. You can see them actually.
Yeah, that's cool.
So both still needed a little bit more cooking time, but this was slightly faster, which was this.
Yeah, so I think and I don't know if it's something magic about the bricks, or if it's just the fact that the brick is contributing to the amount of heat around. It does seem like we're getting things to cook faster off of the Konro. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. From especially the inside, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, as we did the steak there's one steak that we cooked on the Green Life. It seared really nice.
Yeah.
I love that sear though. But still, if you look at temperature and how it's cooked, this was a little bit faster. So
yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe their claims are real.
So like if you want to actually have it cook it like this on the Konro and have really nice char, what you could do is have the little bit more charcoal on one side, or use a fan.
Yep.
It gives you a little bit more like direct heat to it. So
yeah, I think you learn as you go, and you try and experiment with different ways of moving around your charcoal, moving the grills around. With the sweet potatoes, you could wrap them, you could leave them whole, right? Or maybe even cut them in smaller pieces.
Yep. Absolutely, yeah.
Oiling, I think the oiling on the steak would give it a better sear. It usually does.
Right.
And I think that that one piece that we did see a nice sear on came from the oils or the fat off of the cap of the beef. But yeah, no, in general, the flavor and the end result was very similar.
Yeah.
It just seemed to cook faster
That's
on
the subtle difference.
Konro.
You wouldn't know the difference if you only have one, and you won't do the side by side comparison like this, right? That's why we're doing it for you. Advantage of the Green Life, light. It's very portable.
Yep.
Like you can just chuck it in your car and go off to camping. You don't have to worry about like this breaking. This super heavy.
Yeah.
You don't want to drop it. It just breaks into pieces.
More delicate, definitely.
Absolutely.
If you're just going to set it up in a place in your yard or somewhere and not move it, if it's not going to be a portable object for you, I think the Konro is a really great way to go. I also like that, being metal, you'd be able to clean this thing up really well and kind of bring it back to the original condition and get rid of some of the grease the way that the Konro definitely builds up.
Yep.
You can scrub it off the metal around the outside, but you do kind of have to lean into it. It's like having a carbon steel knife where it's it's gonna get a patina on it and there's nothing you're gonna do about it.
Right.
Whereas this, if you're a clean freak, maybe that's the choice for you.
So,
what do you like? I like going to work and eating sweet potatoes and steak. This has been fantastic. I think I've learned a lot. Again, I really like trying to work with these two different things or just working with the charcoal in general to work on the skills. But it's so fun to get together and test things out. Yeah. So I've had a great time. I hope people who've watched today have learned something too. And if you want us to run other experiments, we'd love to have to cook food at work again. We out.